Hi, folks. This is Paul Garza with High Performance Business Solutions. You know, we're at a time where this nation is deeply divided for a number of different reasons. And this is really unfortunate because I truly believe that if we were to look in depth and look at each other, we would find that we have considerably more things that unite us than divide us. Unfortunately, we reject what we don't understand. We hold contempt for those people because they represent a point of view or have a value system that differs from ours. And what we don't see is that we just simply have a lack of understanding of each other. And if we just simply pause for a moment and took that time to seek to understand and engage, we would find that unity of which I'm speaking. The fact of the matter is that if we really come down to it, if we come really evaluate the essential elements of the human condition, we come to realize that we all want to be loved. We all want to love. We all want to feel safe. We all want to achieve. We want to have economic stability. And all of us want that. And when we find disparities between people, it's because in some cases, some of the people are not enjoying these things and others are. But the fact of the matter is, we want the same things, and it's extremely important for us to remember that. So, pause for a second and think, what really is it that divides us? Is it philosophical differences? Is it racial differences? Is it religious differences? What is it? And as I mentioned before, if we really come down to it, we really are by far more similar than we realized. I would submit to you that now is the time for us to seek to understand each other more than we want to be understood, because what we find more often than not is that we are demanding to be understood, but I'm not so sure that we're doing a really good job in wanting to understand others. One thing that I would say is that we need to seek each other's success rather than promote the defeat of the people that either we feel threatened by or that oppose us philosophically. In other words, I would submit to you that we are at a stage where we need to promote the understanding of not only the people that surround us, but also those things that they hold dear, rather than just simply at wholesale levels reject them and push back on those things. You know, you've heard that saying that says, to know Jim is to love him. Well, that's essentially what we're talking about here. If we really take the steps to really seek to understand each other and that individual, what happens is that we wind up not only identifying the affinities, in some cases, we wind up even liking each other. Imagine that. You see, I am really of the belief that the power of the individual is of extraordinary importance right now. I believe that in order for us to really begin the unification of our nation, of our communities, it really depends upon us at the individual level. In other words, upon you, upon me, upon all of us. The reality is that no matter who is in charge in government, we still need to interact and live in the community in which we live, in the communities in which we are, for we are mutually reliant. Think of the people upon which you rely and provide you services that you cannot generate for yourself. I still need to go to the supermarket. I can't do that. I can't generate the things that the supermarket makes available to me. I need to rely upon my mechanic. I need to rely upon my banker, my accountant, my the people that just simply provide the services. And I don't look first at what philosophical or religious preferences they have or anything like that. I, more than anything, base my engagement on two elements. Number one, the content of their character, to quote Martin Luther King, and the other one is in the way that I am treated, and more so in the way that I treat them. And this is where we begin. I think that we're at a point that we need to start building bridges. God knows that in the last year, for political reasons mostly, but in general, we have burned up some of those bridges, and it's time for us to get into the attitude of rebuilding. But I'm talking about rebuilding in the way that we interact with the people that surround us. I'm talking about the way we engage people, seeking to understand, really rebuilding that bridge. And it doesn't matter whether they're black, white, Native American, Jewish, Buddhist, it doesn't, Muslim, it doesn't really matter. It just simply matters that we recognize that if we really go down to it, this nation was built on the very premises of diversity. Think about it. We have been bringing people from throughout the globe, and we now have formed this community that is incredibly able. Our success is going to be based on one basic principle, and that is to the degree that we see ourselves in each other and the humanity of the people that surround us. Two people were taking a hike in one of those beautiful areas of the state of Colorado, in one of those beautiful Colorado days. And they stopped to take a rest. And while they were doing that, one of them began to really take in the beauty of the landscape. As the other individual observed this person taking in and taking the landscape and really appreciating it, that individual asked him, that person asked him, so, how many aspens do you see there? And the other person looked and said, oh, there must have hundreds, if not thousands. And he said, well, the fact of the matter is that if that cluster of aspens, if you look at that cluster of aspens right there, and if you look underneath at the root level, you'll find that they are one singular organism. In other words, they are all connected at the root. This really created pause for both of them. And they began to look at that cluster of aspens not as a congregation or accumulation of individual trees, but how they all interacted, how they all were mutually reliant. Now I'd like to talk to you about what I call walking the talk. I'd like to give you 3 steps for you to consider in terms of what we're talking about today. We're talking about diversity, and we're talking about seeing yourself and the people that surround you. So let's start with the first one. I would challenge you for you to start understanding about other cultures. I would challenge you for you to start learning about the Jewish community, about the Hispanic community, or African-American community, the Buddhist community, whatever. Especially if you can start seeking to understand about the people that surround you in your community so you can have that interaction. So I would like to give you that as a first step to begin seeing yourself in each other. The second step that I would give you is, there are a lot of people that have contrasting opinions to yours, probably. You probably surround yourself with people that are like-minded. I'm going to challenge you to take one step and go out to someone that has a different, a diverging opinion and say, I'd like to buy you a cup of coffee, or I'd like to have a conversation with you. And when they ask you, why do you want to do that? I said, because I really want to understand you more. The third thing that I would like to ask you is, when you start a conversation, let's say that conversation that we just talked about, or any other conversation, I'm going to ask you to practice 2 things. One of them, begin to become aware of your disposition and make sure that you focus on becoming curious and in curiosity and not in judgment. The second thing I would like to ask you in the same step is that you seek to understand more than you want to be understood. This is Paul de la Garza with High Performance Business Solutions. I hope that some of this has actually reached you and that you can take it out for a test drive. Take care and be well.